Society equates youth with value. So, of course, women are going to feel insecure as they age if they feel that we're losing our value.
Having gray hair in and of itself isn't going to make me look older. It's the total vibe that I'm trying to project, which is a reflection of the vibrant, young, excited person I am who's, living my best life.
I love that because it's so deliberate. People say, oh, well, she's letting herself go or, whatever bullshit, right? But it's not. It's we are deciding, we are being deliberate about how these choices, because it's all about rejecting the idea that we need to hide who we truly are as we age.
Ignore the people who will tell you that you're going to look older, because that's probably the biggest deterrent or things that people said to me. At the end of the day, when it's all grown out, if I don't like it, I can always start dyeing it again.
It's freaking hair, people. It's not like you're cutting off your right arm, for the love of God.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. I am Karen, and today I am drinking my favorite boxed wine from Vino Disco, and tonight it is Sauvignon Blanc. How about you, Lisa?
I've got to order some of that. I keep forgetting. I think that's such a great story. So I have about an inch left, my wine, of a part Sauvignon Blanc, the boxed wine, part blackberry lemonade seltzer, and probably melted ice. So I would say watered down Sauvignon Blanc is probably what we're looking at right now. And today, back by popular demand, is Natasha Kolehmainen. Some of you guys may recognize her from our Decluttering Part 2 episode. Well, she is multifaceted and multi-talented. So she also happens to be a silver sister. What is that, you say? Well, we're about to explain that to you. But first, Natasha, what are you drinking, darling?
Well, thank you so much for having me back on the podcast. Super excited to talk about this topic. We are recording this in January, so I am doing dry January this year, although it's been rough a couple of days this week. But I am drinking lemon water with what is called Calm Mind, which is my magnesium powder with, I think, L-theanine or something that I put in it that helps me sleep at night.
Nice. That's good. I need to look into that. I am so excited for this episode. I have been chomping at the bit to get to this episode. And I'm really excited to hear about your going gray journey, Natasha. And let me say, I've been considering embracing my gray for probably about 2 years. But my son got married about a year and a half ago, and people said, you can't do it before the wedding. They freaked out. I've always dyed my hair blonde, to kind of camouflage it. But I'm just feeling this pull to just kind of let it be. But I really don't know how to just finally take the leap. So I am so excited to unpack this topic with you.
Fun fact, I was hoping I would go gray, but in some bizarre twist, because of course I've got to be the outlier to any of you who know me, my hair is going dark. Yes, dark instead. Dark to black kind of dark. I don't know what Marvel superhero power it represents, but it's actually super annoying right now because it means I'm highlighting my hair all the time. So I'm actually trying to embrace the gray to come in, because then I won't have to highlight my hair as much. It'll be natural highlights and I won't have to go to my awesome hairstylist. So I'm really interested in hearing about this from the opposite situation. But I will say that this topic inspires opinions big time. So we love a good controversy here on Drinks with the Girls. So we're here for that. So, and I think, honestly, the idea of going gray inspires controversy because it's not just about hair, right? You're challenging those societal norms, and we all love to like blame it on the patriarchy here at Drinks with the Girls. So we're here for that. But it's really redefining what beauty is and who is allowed to set that standard, in my opinion. But I will let the ultimate Silver Sister respond and start us off.
Lisa, yes, I agree with you 100% that there's a lot of societal norms and pressure up against the whole idea of letting your hair grow natural. So whether it's gray or not, right? Like just to have natural hair, right? In general. But the pressure, I think, to look young or even more so not to age is deep rooted, no pun intended. But the good news is that I think the silver hair movement is actually helping shift the conversation in all aspects of aging. And probably one of the good things that came out of the pandemic when many women took advantage of the salons being closed as kind of a permission or even excuse or an explanation, a way to kind of make somebody else the reason to let their hair go natural. So they kind of had permission in a way to do that. Although I started that a little earlier.
That's so true. That's when I really first remember starting to see women, in real life and also on social media grow their hair out and being really proud of like sharing their journey and sharing their stories and having that kind of be, kind of like one of the main things that they talked about on social media. According to a 2020 survey by Allure, 63% of women feel the pressure to look younger. I mean, I would say it's higher than that, but anyway, 63%. And I think to your point, Natasha, not only look younger, but just stop aging altogether, right? Just look at the language and the marketing of the beauty products targeting women over 40. The beauty industry, by the way, is worth over $500 billion. So it thrives on selling anti-aging products because society equates youth with value. So of course, women are going to feel insecure as they age if they feel, and we're getting the messages that we're losing our value. But what if embracing our natural selves is the ultimate act of self-love? So Natasha, when and how did you decide to go gray?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I just also want to, before I tell you that story, like I agree with you that not only is it a huge industry, it's like a recession-proof industry. So one of the things Lisa and I learned through one of our other connections is people are going to still buy their hair products and get their hair dyed, even in the worst of financial times. That tells you like the magnitude of the pressure that we feel as women. I started having random gray hair when I was in my early 20s. So at that point in my life, I really felt like dyeing my hair was a necessity, not a fashion choice. Certainly in high school, I had the purple hair and did the things, but going gray early really felt like I didn't have a choice about dyeing my hair. And so fast forward to being, about 44 years old back in 2016, and I started to really feel the pull to not want to do this anymore. So I was watching other women. I was kind of doing some research. I was seeing millennials pay hundreds of dollars to have gray hair. And I'm like, wait a minute, there is something wrong here. So I decided and planned for almost 2 years about how I was going to do this. And a few days after I dropped my twins off for their freshman year of college, I went to the hairstylist that I'd been going to for 15 years and said, we're doing it. I'm ready. Cut it short. Had this cute little, not pixie, but cute little haircut. And I began the process of not dyeing it anymore. And I had done a little bit of going from dyeing it dark to going to dyeing it blonde. So I went from being a brunette, redhead, and to blonde, which was a shocking transition for most of my friends and family. But for me, that meant I wasn't in the chair getting it dyed every 3 weeks. I could stretch it maybe to 4 weeks. So that was the first step I had taken. And then, like I said, when I dropped them off at college, a couple weeks later, cut it short. And it just became part of my redefining who I was as I was transitioning from that stage of being kind of actively parenting my kids at home to, launching them and getting ready for the empty nest years.
I can see how it can become the ultimate act of self-love, right? That's such a powerful thought. I am not a fan of the chemicals. I too dyed my hair all over a few times. I suppose I can justify the highlights a little because it's not sitting on my scalp as much. But honestly, I'm kind of over it. Like, I'm going to be really, really happy when I see a little bit more gray. So it's not just a thing with me for sure. But honestly, there's a stat that 91% of women over 50 feel like society expects them to fight aging. It's exhausting. We're actually prepping for an episode that's coming down the pike soon. And we're going to do a book review of Brooke Shields' new book, which is called Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. And let me tell you, I've dove in a little bit. Karen's about to, and she is not having it, man. And talk about being like in the limelight and having all your flaws exposed. And she talks a little bit about how people have no problem just, saying this stuff online to her face and all that. So, but I digress. So hang on for that.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn. But let's talk a little bit about how we're seeing, Brooke Shields is doing it, right? How we're seeing more women rebel against this and just basically call bullshit.
Yeah, I am so excited for that episode. So listeners, go out and get the book by Brooke Shields. It's called Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. I love looking at it as an act of rebellion. So Natasha, this is exciting for me. So you were actively participating in who you wanted to be in this next chapter in life. And this is something that I talk to my clients about because midlife fuckery happens to all of us in one form or another. So I love that you used the empty nest as kind of like this, it went hand in hand with you going gray, because I encourage my clients to decide, in all capitals, decide who is this next version of you going to be, right? We're not going to just settle for it. So I do think going gray is really a form of rebellion. Does it feel that way to you, Natasha? Do you feel like a rebel? I mean, celebrities like Andie MacDowell, Jamie Lee Curtis, right? They make it more visible. But for me, it's the everyday women like you that I find most inspiring.
I absolutely felt like a rebel at the time, partly because it was before kind of the mass movement of this. But I got a lot of positive feedback, especially once the growth process was complete. During the growth process, I would say that I got more of a like, well, why would you do that? And, oh, you're going to regret that. So it really wasn't until the process was really done that people were like, my gosh, your hair is beautiful. During the process, that really required a little more commitment on my part to be resistant to that feedback. But for me, I was pretty financially motivated. Honestly, that kind of got me motivated because I was spending not only hours every 4 weeks sitting in the chair feeling my scalp burning, but I was spending probably $200 every single time. And so there were other things I wanted to do with that money. Well, pay for the college, right? I was sick and tired of spending. I calculated how much it was, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So that helped me through the rough patches.
A 2022 Vogue study found that 72% of women who went gray felt freer and more authentic. That is huge. It's a shift we're starting to see more and more. Karen, didn't you tell me you and Tony had a conversation about this?
I mean, we have conversations about aging a lot. And during one conversation, he was talking about him going gray and feeling old because of it. And I told him aging isn't about how you look, but how you live. And I'm trying to redefine what aging means for both of us, but it isn't easy because of those social constructs that we talked about and because of the box that society puts us as women in, especially as we age. So it's rewiring these decades of conditioning. I don't feel like a grandma, even though I am one. And full transparency, I don't want to look like one, or at least the image in my mind of like what my grandmother looked like, although I love her, she's badass. So I'm trying to really decide, I guess like you did, Natasha, like I'm just trying to decide how do I want to look and how do I want to age in my next chapter?
When you were talking, I was thinking about we did a 2-part episode when we first came out with the podcast called Aging Disgracefully. So if you haven't listened to those, but I feel like this is part of that whole theme, right? Like, F the patriarchy. Like, we're going to do this the way we want to. Speaking of redefining beauty, have y'all seen Pamela Anderson recently? She's been making massive waves by going with minimal makeup at public events. The response has been incredible, both positive and negative. So, Natasha, what are your thoughts on that?
So here's the thing. Like, I did have to come to terms with the idea that I do look, or you might look older with gray or silver hair compared to when you were dyeing it. Gray is a symbol, kind of a universal symbol of age, of being a little bit, more advanced, more experienced, more wisdom, whatever you want to call it. But it is an aging process, right? So it's going to symbolize aging. But that doesn't mean you have to look older than you really are, right? So I'm 52 right now, and I don't really want to look 42 anymore. I want to look my age, but I want to look healthy. I want to look vibrant. So to your point, Karen, it's not about the number. It's kind of how you present yourself. It's, the whole vibe that you're going for. I personally don't like to wear a lot of makeup, but with my complexion and gray hair, I can look really tired and my eyes kind of disappear without makeup. And so the combination of having gray hair, which is a symbol of age, right? And no makeup, I actually look older than I am. And I don't feel kind of young and vibrant if I don't have a little bit of makeup to kind of make sure my eyes don't get lost and my complexion, my face doesn't just kind of fade away. And so I want to look happy. I want to look vibrant. I want my external presence to be a reflection of my internal self. And so I have had to kind of learn that, it's also about the clothes I wear and it's about how I style my hair. If I actually really like having long hair, but if I have long hair, I tend to always put it up in a clip. And basically I look like a grandmother with a bun, right? And so that's not a great combination of styling my hair and the color of my hair. Whereas right now I have it cut as kind of shoulder length and one day it's kind of straight. And then the second day, because I don't like washing my hair every day, I curl it. But the style is a little bit younger. So the gray doesn't age me at that point. And the clothes I wear, I'm conscious of not wearing clothes that make me look older. It's kind of like those memes when you look at the Golden Girls or the Brady Bunch parents and you realize how old they actually were at the time, or Edith and whoever Bunker. And you're like, oh my God, they were younger than I am right now, but they look like they're 20 years older than me. And that's because of their hairstyle and the clothes they were wearing. I find that having gray hair in and of itself isn't going to make me look older. It's the way I style my hair, the makeup I wear, the clothes, and the total vibe that I'm trying to project, which is a reflection of the vibrant, young, excited person I am who's, living my best life.
I love that because it's so deliberate. People say, "Oh, well, she's letting herself go," or whatever bullshit, right? But it's not. It's like we are deciding. We are being deliberate about how these choices. And yeah, it's not about not wearing makeup because I agree with you, Natasha. It's like I like to wear a little bit of cheek color, a little bit of eye color. I don't even know that I want to go my natural gray. Like I'm not opposed to still dyeing it a really fun, funky, cool silver or something like that. Mm-hmm. So to your point, it's like, yeah, I don't want to look like my grandma with a beehive. She had to go to the beauty salon every week to go get it done. And she slept in the rollers and all that. But I don't want to look like I'm 30. I don't want to look like I'm 40. I'm 56. I'm not afraid to look my age, but I just want to do it my way. And I'm so obsessed with Pam Anderson right now. Like, I just love that she's doing what she's doing because her move complements the conversation that we're having about going gray, because it's all about rejecting the idea that we need to hide who we truly are as we age. And, if you think about it, she spent a lifetime being a caricature of herself, really, in response to societal expectations and an industry that supported this on steroids, right? So it just makes me so happy for her that she's finally, at least I'm projecting all this onto her, but I feel like she's finally feeling like she's enough just by who she is, right? And she can put herself out there, and she's making a statement in the process. Although I have to admit, it's hard for me to read some of the comment section of her posts, like when she goes to public events and she has minimal makeup on. It's mostly the women in those comments that criticize her. And it's kind of, it's hard to see. But it is helpful to see high profile women leading by example and challenging these outdated norms.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers!
The broken record of blaming the patriarchy. It's just so interesting to me that this is like this big, huge thing, right? Like, she's going without makeup. Like, they're going gray. And it's like, nobody says a fucking thing when it's a guy that's people are just like, oh, doesn't he look distinguished? Or like Mick Jagger just had like another kid with his 18-year-old girlfriend. Like, nobody says anything. And so for me, it's not even about like what looks good, what doesn't, whatever. It's just like, why do we have to go through this process in the first place? I get steamy. For those of us on the fence, I don't know that I'm on the fence. I'm just in like the permanent awkward grow out situation. You talk about this awkward transition or just kind of how you did it. Like, what advice will you have for people that are like, okay, I'm ready to do it. I just don't know how to get through these phases.
Personally, for me, I needed to go short and get the transition over as quick as possible and then determine what hairstyle I wanted after that. And I did end up growing it out again after the transition was done. But I just needed the awkward two-tone phase to be as quick as possible. And so even though I had dyed it blonde, I have, salt and pepper hair, more salt than pepper. And so it was fairly obvious demarcation line between when I was dyeing it, when I wasn't. I'm super impressed with women who, are in it for the long haul and they have their hair long and they don't care. And they're like, I'm doing this. And you can just tell this is going to take them years to do that. But, all the kudos to them. I don't have the patience for that. The things I learned kind of going through the process were that as I mentioned, I had calculated how much money I was spending. It was a lot more than I want to admit. Instead of putting that money towards groceries or bills or debt or whatever, I kind of swapped it out. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to buy really good hair products. I'm going to buy, the fancy hair dryer and the curling iron that I need to, make it look good during this awkward stage. I was already investing in good haircuts. So kind of redistributing that money to makeup or clothes or something that's going to help you kind of maintain that vibe through the awkward phase. And then I also realized pretty quickly that my natural hair actually behaved very differently than my completely damaged, dyed, chemically treated hair. I needed to learn how to take care of it differently. And so, taking the time to learn about the different shampoo that I needed or the different way I needed more products I needed to buy and actually make my hair do what it was supposed to do. Invest in the purple shampoo is number one, because there's nothing worse than going through this entire process and having, beautiful silver hair and having it turn all brassy because you have hard water or something. The purple shampoo is an investment well worth the money. So definitely invest in that. I also have a really good hat collection from that awkward phase and some really nice scarves. So I got pretty adept at doing different things when I just couldn't stand looking at it in that two-tone phase. I needed a break from that. So I would just wear a cool hat. And then here's probably the number one thing. Ignore the people who will tell you that you're going to look older, because that's probably the biggest deterrent or things that people said to me. I don't think it was with malintent or maliciousness. It was, more like, oh my gosh, you're going to look so old. And I just was like, you know what? I'm going to power through. And if at the end of the day, when it's all grown out, if I don't like it, I can always start dyeing it again.
It's freaking hair, people. It's not like you're like cutting off your right arm, for the love of God.
Right. So those are the things that help me get through that awkward stage.
Hell yes. I love that last one. We love that answer at Drinks with the Girls, because if we've learned one thing about women as they age is they don't give a fork as they get older about what other people say, right? And I think it could be a good conversation, like to really get this conversation going. Is when people do make comments like that, is to maybe, obviously I'm thinking for myself when I go through this process, but it's like to come back with something that can really just kind of let people know that it's like, well, guess what? I am old. I'm 56. I've been on this planet. I've lived 56 years, and that's okay. It's okay for me to have gray hair at this stage in my life. I'm like 23. And, time and money are big motivators too. Did you know that some women spend over $27,000 on hair dye over 17 years? I mean, imagine what we could do with that money and that time. Because, sometimes it takes me 2.5 hours to sit in the chair to get my hair done.
That's freaking bananas. I'm picturing the vacation I could take, right? Instead of sitting in a salon chair every few weeks. And it's not just about aesthetics. Like, as we preach on this podcast, it's about reclaiming your life, your image, your resources for things that truly bring you joy.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's giving a big fat middle finger to societal expectations, to the patriarchy,
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. It's like, sorry, I'm aging the way I want, and I'm keeping my money in my pocket. So let's get real for a moment. I feel like women need support when it comes to feeling okay about aging, about making a decision like this. Like, Lisa, to your point, do men have these conversations? I don't think so. It's the double standard, right? Men are often celebrated for aging naturally, while women are scrutinized. I did see an exciting stat that changing how we view aging can extend our lives by 7.5 years. So have you noticed this double standard?
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, I saw that stat recently too. And I sent the Jane Fonda video about it to my 77-year-old mom, and she was very excited about it. I would say there's definitely a double standard. 99% of people are supportive and complimentary. I often get comments, or compliments, I should say, from complete strangers, at the checkout line or at a restaurant. And it does, it feels genuine. I mean, I really think they're like, wow, I love your hair. And I think there's something embedded in that compliment more than I love your hair, right? I think it's also that feeling of being empowered by seeing somebody else in person do something that you might see a social influencer doing it, but it's different when it's the person standing right in front of you or the person you know. So I've had a lot of friends who have done the same thing and will attribute their bravery or their willingness to try it to having seen me do it. And then that just, makes me so happy on so many levels. And really the only people who are not complimentary are men. I do have one friend, dear friend, love him, but he hates my hair. And he will tell me every time he sees me, I hate your hair. And it's kind of like we have a little bit of a brother-sister kind of relationship. And I know that he isn't being mean per se. But given how many gray hairs he has at this point, I just shoot right back. So there is definitely a double standard. I don't think men are having this conversation at all. And they're certainly not saying to each other, oh, gosh, you're going to look so old if you don't do something about your hair. I mean, it's almost cliche, right? Because it's the midlife dad who gets divorced and dyes his hair. And everybody's like, dude, what are you doing? You're like having this crazy midlife crisis. Knock it off. Right? So it's absolutely the opposite response.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about this piece too, like all three of us have daughters, right? And all three of us feel a responsibility to change some of these standards for our daughters and kind of what they have to live through, you know? So I think by having these conversations, we're inspiring the next generation to see aging as vibrant and full of potential and not just about friggin' hair, for God's sakes.
For sure. And I love, Natasha, that you talked about, women that you don't even know commenting on your hair. I try to do that, and I was, just as you were talking, I was kind of looking inward. I'm like, well, why do I do that? And it's the bravery that you talk about, because it is brave in our society to do what you did, to do what women are doing when they're going gray, right? To embrace their age and not shy away from aging. And so to know that other women do that they will go up to a stranger and then they will say, I love your gray hair. Because I think that's important. It's kind of like we, in the sisterhood, it's like, I see you. I see what a big fucking deal that is. Lisa, to your point too, it's like I tell my kid, like my kids are 29 and they think they are so old and oh my God, I'm going to be 30. And when I tell them that their 40s and 50s are going to be the best years of their lives, they don't believe me. Like they're shocked, right? And I don't want them to have negative views or fear around aging.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. Plus, I'm beyond excited to announce the launch of my new membership, the Empowered Parent Collective, this March. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together. Cheers!
So, Natasha, what would you say to our listeners who want to go gray? Like if they hear this episode, they've been on the fence, and now they're totally pumped up and inspired. What would you say would be some really good first steps?
So I think one of the things is you have to just be willing to be selfish for a little while, right? Because I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't really care what my husband thinks or the kids think or society thinks or my friends think. Like I had to almost get to that FU stage to be able to do the thing, right? And so really making sure you're doing it for the right reasons and for yourself, not for anybody else. That's where you kind of have to be that selfish. And I think it's okay to be selfish, especially right now in our lives at this stage. And it's going to be awkward. It's going to be hella awkward for a little while. And so you just have to be committed. And so the times when I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is awful. I look ridiculous. I would just say to myself, okay, I just have to get through it. Once it's all grown out, if I really don't like it, I can start over. I can diet. I promised myself that I would get through the whole thing before I made a decision about whether or not to go back. Because here's the thing, you do have to like the way you look, right? And if you get to the end of this and you're like, no, this just isn't a good look. Your hair is your crown. Right? And you need to love what you see in the mirror. I found pictures of women with gray hair. I did a lot of Pinterest pins of different gray hair and gray hair styles. And so I would just look to those all the time, kind of for inspiration. I followed the people who were on Instagram at this point doing it so that I kind of just saw kind of reinforcement that the effort was going to be worth it. And I would make a list of why I was doing it. I didn't want to feel that burn on my scalp every 4 weeks. I didn't want to really know about what those chemicals might be doing to me, and, make that list, refer back to it. I definitely recommend going shorter just because it's quicker to the awkward stage as a tip. And then again, I calculated how much money I was saving, and I basically paid myself to get other things with that money. I didn't just let it sit in the bank. I was like, nope, if I'm not spending it on this, I'm spending it on Starbucks or new sneakers or whatever it is I wanted for a while. And then I was like, okay, I could probably stop buying stuff.
Yeah. And I think, we conflate this idea of age and fear. And I'm just not convinced that age means automatically ratcheting up the fear quotient. I'm dealing with this with my dad right now. Like, we keep talking about the grumpy old men episode that we're going to do. And right now I just don't know that that's going to happen. Whole other topic. But this idea of fear ruling your decisions and inevitability of that fear ruling your decisions is a bullshit societal construct. Like, let's just be real about this. Like, just because aging is inevitable, it doesn't mean that fear and like shrinking your life need to be inevitable. So in your case, Natasha, by embracing your gray hair, you are actively choosing authenticity, freedom, and self-love. And that's a gift to yourself and everyone around you.
So, Natasha, one of the things that I really want our listeners to walk away from this episode hearing is the fact that you said, like, one of your main tips and how to get started, you have to be selfish. And I think that is so hard for women, period. But it is hard for women in midlife. Although I feel like we do get a little bit better as we get older, but it's so ingrained in us that taking care of ourselves, putting ourselves first is selfish. So can you just tell us a little bit how you did that? Like, you said you had to be selfish, but how do you do that, especially for women who are not used to being selfish?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was the timing, right? So I had thought about this for years before I actually did it, but I needed to wait. Well, maybe needed isn't the right word. I chose to wait until my kids left for college because I think there was a little bit of me not wanting to have to defend my decision to more people, right? It was just me and my husband at that point.
I totally get that.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say, like, my husband is one of the best human beings I've ever known on the planet. But I'm sure there are times when he doesn't like it. There's times when I'm putting it up in a bun for 3 weeks in a row because I'm too stressed out and busy to actually do my hair and makeup every day, that I do look older. There's times probably when we're out in public and he doesn't age, unfortunately. Fortunately, I don't know.
Damn him.
I know, like, people are like, you still look the same way you did 10 years ago, dude. I'm younger than him, but he looks younger than me.
Not fair.
But it's not fair. He has never said a word. He has always said, well, whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, do whatever you want. Even though I'm sure there are times when he's like, oh. But when I do my hair, right, and when I'm wearing my clothes that make me look good and feel good, like, it's not an issue because that's, when I'm feeling my best. And so if I'm feeling my best, I'm looking my best, right? To make the decision was one thing, but to follow through on the decision was a totally different thing. And I really did have to put blinders on and kind of say F you to everybody and say to myself, this is totally about me. I had to realize that I was sitting in that chair every 4 weeks for someone else. And I wasn't sitting there because I needed to put those chemicals on my head or I needed to be blonde or redhead or whatever I was that season. If I really wanted to be doing what I wanted to be doing, I would be doing something else. And it wouldn't be sitting in that chair and it wouldn't be spending that money. The timing of it for me, tied to when my kids were leaving, was a time when I felt like being selfish was almost expected of me at that point in my life, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think
I love that.
Yeah, this is reminding me a lot of the things that we talked about when we did the breast reduction surgery episode, when I talked about my breast reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I almost feel like our loved ones have these fears that they may voice or may not voice, not because they're their fears, but it's because what they've absorbed from society, and they feel like they have to kind of let us know, right? Because then we talk about that. I'll link that episode in the show notes, but it's like, my husband was like, oh my gosh, like, and my father, why would you want to butcher yourself? All that. And, I joke about like when my husband finally, it clicked, it's like, I grabbed my boobs and put his hands under there to lift him up. I was like, do you see? And he was like, holy crap, that is so much weight. It was like, do you see what I'm freaking saying? So I think that it's easy for our loved ones to kind of slip into that idea, not that they're trying to like persecute us, but those societal messages are ingrained for everybody. And so their concern there is like fed by this beast that isn't even really them. You know, I mean, they want us to be happy, for God's sakes. It's that deeper kind of issue in society that I think we have to look at.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have predicted the future, but about a year into this process, so my kids went to college in the fall of 2018. The fall of 2019, I was actually diagnosed with cancer. I'm by no means saying dyeing my hair caused my thyroid cancer. It didn't. But just the idea that after I had cancer, I was much more attuned to the chemicals I was, ingesting or putting on my body, and made some different choices around other areas of my life. And so I think had I gotten to 2019 and not done this, I would have done it from a place of fear at that point and stopped dyeing my hair. Whereas doing it when I did was from a place of decision and empowerment and choice. I think even just having gone through that process, it empowered me to make choices in other areas of my life, right? I always say when I'm talking to friends or clients, if you can do hard things in one place, you can do hard things in other places. My husband was an Orange Theory fitness coach for a while. And one of the things that they would talk about is if you can do hard things in the gym, you can do hard things outside of the gym. I did a hard thing by growing my hair out and stopping dyeing it. Now it's easier for me to do other hard things.
Yeah, it's working that muscle that we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And because I especially love, we all do here at Drinks with the Girls. We love it when women take their lives by the reins. You know what I'm saying?
By the hair.
I don't.
Yeah.
I love how you talk about how you did it really from a place of choice and empowerment. And I think that's fantastic.
So listeners, if you're on this journey already, if you're journey curious or thinking about it, share your story with us. Send us an email, tag us on social. We always love it when we get comments and emails and all those things, and connect with our community, because that, if you aren't sick of us saying this constantly, that's the reason we started this podcast, is to build this community. And we can't do that without you.
Yes. And remember, whether you're gray, blonde, brunette, or rocking the rainbow, which that's one of the things I'd really love to do. The key
Rock that rainbow.
Well, I love the purple. I love how women do purple. And I really feel like, were you purple? I feel like,
Yeah.
we all had colored hair in the 80s probably, but I feel like women our age look really good. If the color looks good, I feel like purple works on women in their 40s and 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, like Natasha said, moving from a place of empowerment, a place of choice, decision making, and authenticity, right? So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Natasha, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if I have final thoughts other than, if anybody ever has questions or just needs like a pep talk, you're welcome to reach out to me. All my social media connections will be in the notes. Happy to have a conversation if anybody wants to reach out and connect on this particular topic. And I just want you both to know how much I have enjoyed being on your podcast and how much I enjoy listening to your podcast. This has been super fun.
Natasha gave me like the best compliment I think anybody has ever said about the podcast. And I think it was the gratitude episode. And you're like, I felt like I was sitting there with a cup of coffee talking to you. I'm like, that's the vibe we're going for.
Perfect.
That's exactly the vibe. Yay, we did it. We
Perfect.
did what we
Drinks
want.
with the girls.
Absolutely. So listeners, you know the drill. Share this episode with the girlfriend you know who is considering going a la naturelle. And don't forget to leave us a review. And until next time, cheers to living your best life. Silver-haired vixens and all. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.